Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast. My name is Anna, and I am so happy you are here with us today. This podcast is made for beginner English learners, and every episode is simple, fun, and useful. Today, we have a really important and motivating topic. We're going to talk about not wasting your time. Time is the one thing we all have equally. Everyone gets 24 hours in a day, but how we use those hours makes a huge difference in our lives. I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Mark. Mark, say hello and tell us, do you ever feel like you are wasting time?
Hello. Thank you, Anna. Hi to all our wonderful listeners. Do I ever feel like I'm wasting time? Honestly, yes, sometimes. I think everyone does. But over the years, I've learned a lot about how to use time more wisely and how to recognize when I'm letting it slip away. Today, Anna and I are going to talk about what it means to waste time, why we do it, how to stop, and how to use your time in ways that make you feel happy, productive, and fulfilled. We will also give you lots of useful English vocabulary and phrases.
Let's start with the basics. What does it mean to waste time? To waste time means to spend time on things that are not useful, important, or meaningful, things that do not help you grow, achieve your goals, or make you happy. The opposite of wasting time is using time well, or spending time productively. Some useful English vocabulary for this topic: productive, doing something useful and getting good results; efficient, completing tasks with the least amount of time or effort wasted; priority, something that is more important than other things; procrastinate, to delay doing something, especially something you should do.
Great vocabulary to start with. The most common ways people waste time are quite relatable. Scrolling endlessly through social media, watching videos and reading posts without any clear purpose, sometimes for hours. Watching TV programs you do not even really enjoy just because the TV is on. Doing small, easy tasks to avoid a bigger, more difficult one. This is called procrastination. Saying yes to things you do not want to do and spending time on other people's priorities instead of your own. Overthinking, spending so much time worrying about decisions that you never actually make them. And waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect conditions before starting something important.
Waiting for the perfect moment. I definitely recognize that one. Now let's talk about why we waste time, because understanding the reason is the first step to changing the habit. There are several common reasons. First, fear. When we are afraid of failure or of not doing something perfectly, we avoid starting. Second, lack of clear goals. If you do not know what you want to achieve, it is very easy to fill your time with unimportant activities. Third, low energy. When we are tired, we tend to choose easy, passive activities rather than meaningful ones. Fourth, distractions. Our phones, notifications, and the internet are designed to grab and hold our attention.
The psychology of wasting time is very interesting. One important reason is what psychologists call instant gratification, choosing something that feels good right now even if it doesn't help you long term. Watching a funny video feels good instantly. Working on a difficult project feels hard now but rewarding later. Our brains are naturally attracted to the easy, immediate reward. Another reason is mental fatigue. When your brain is tired from working hard, it seeks rest through distraction rather than productive rest. Also, lack of structure means without a plan or routine, time easily disappears. And finally, some people waste time because they are simply not aware of how much time they are losing.
Tracking your time? That sounds both scary and extremely useful. Now let's talk about the phrase, "don't waste your time," more directly. This phrase can be used in different ways in English. Sometimes we say it as encouragement. Don't waste your time worrying about things you cannot change. Sometimes we say it as advice. Don't waste your time with people who do not appreciate you. And sometimes we say it to warn someone. Don't waste your time on that project. It will never work. The phrase is very flexible and comes up in many different conversations. Mark, can you give our listeners more examples of how we use this phrase naturally in everyday English conversations?
Sure. Here are many natural examples of don't waste your time in everyday use. Don't waste your time watching that show. It is really not good. Don't waste your time explaining it to him. He has already made up his mind. I realized I was wasting my time at that job. He was going nowhere. Stop wasting time on social media and do your homework. She doesn't waste any time. She always gets straight to the point. This is actually a compliment, meaning she's very efficient. I wasted 2 hours trying to fix it, and it wasn't even necessary. Every minute you waste worrying is a minute you could spend doing.
Those examples are perfect. I especially love she gets straight to the point. What a great compliment for an efficient person. Now, let's talk about time management, because this is one of the most important skills for not wasting time. Time management means planning and controlling how you spend your hours to make sure you achieve your goals and priorities. Some key time management strategies: making a to-do list, writing down everything you need to do, setting priorities, deciding which tasks are most important and doing those first, using a schedule or planner, assigning specific times to specific tasks, breaking large tasks into small steps so they feel less overwhelming.
Yes, time management is something I think about every day. My personal system is quite simple. Every evening, I write a short list of the 3 most important things I want to achieve the next day. Just 3, not 20. Keeping the list short forces me to think carefully about what really matters. In the morning, I do the most difficult or most important task first, before I check emails or social media. This is called eating the frog, doing the hardest thing first so everything else feels easy afterward. I also use a simple timer technique, working for 25 minutes without distraction, then taking a 5-minute break. This is called the Pomodoro technique.
Eating the frog. What a vivid and memorable phrase. Now, let's talk about the difference between being busy and being productive, because these are not the same thing. Many people are very busy all day, but do not actually achieve much that is truly important or meaningful. Being busy means your time is full of activity. Being productive means your activity is leading to real results and progress toward your goals. In English, we have a useful expression: working smarter, not harder. This means focusing your effort on the things that actually matter, rather than filling your day with tasks that keep you busy but do not move you forward.
The difference is so important. Here is a clear example. Imagine 2 students. Student A studies for 5 hours, but spends most of that time looking at her phone, reorganizing her notes, and making her workspace look nice. She feels very busy, but she does not learn much. Student B studies for 2 hours with complete focus, no phone, clear goals, active reading. She feels less busy, but she learns much more. Student B is productive. Student A is just busy. Another example. A person who attends many meetings at work all day long might feel very busy, but if those meetings do not lead to decisions or progress, they are not productive.
Am I making progress toward what actually matters to me? What a powerful question to ask yourself. Now, let's talk about procrastination in more detail, because this is one of the biggest reasons people waste time. Procrastination means delaying or postponing tasks, especially important ones, in favor of easier or more enjoyable activities. Almost everyone procrastinates sometimes, but chronic procrastination, doing it all the time, can seriously harm your productivity, your career, and even your mental health. The feeling of having unfinished tasks hanging over you is very stressful. In English, common procrastination phrases include, "I will do it later," "I will start tomorrow," "I'm not in the mood right now," "I will wait until..."
Procrastination is such a common struggle. The main reason people procrastinate is that the task feels uncomfortable, too difficult, too boring, too overwhelming, or too connected to a fear of failure or judgment. The brain avoids discomfort instinctively. The trick is to make starting easier, not finishing. The hardest part of any task is almost always the beginning, so one powerful strategy is commit to doing just 2 minutes of the task, just 2 minutes. Often, once you start, momentum builds and you continue naturally. Another strategy is to remove temptations. Put your phone in another room, close unnecessary browser tabs, and create a distraction-free environment. And remind yourself how good it feels to finish something.
Commit to just 2 minutes. Such a clever and practical strategy. Just starting is often the hardest part, and once you begin, it becomes much easier to continue. Now, let's talk about something many people find difficult: saying no. One of the biggest ways people waste time is by saying yes to things they do not want to do, helping with tasks that are not their responsibility, attending events they don't enjoy, or taking on extra work when they are already too busy. Learning to say no kindly but clearly is an essential skill for protecting your time.
Saying no is a skill that takes practice, but it gets easier. Here are some natural, polite ways to say no. I really appreciate you thinking of me, but I can't commit to that right now. I'm sorry, I already have plans. That sounds interesting, but it's not the right time for me. I need to protect my time at the moment. I'm going to have to pass on this one, but thank you. An important mindset shift is remembering that every time you say yes to something you don't want to do, you are saying no to something you do. Your time and energy are limited and valuable.
If it is not a clear yes, it is a no. I love that rule. Now, let's talk about the role of habits in time management, because our daily habits have an enormous impact on how productively we use our time. A habit is something you do regularly, almost automatically without thinking. Good habits, like waking up early, exercising in the morning, or spending the first hour of your day on important work, save time and build consistency. Bad habits, like checking your phone first thing in the morning, staying up too late, or skipping planned tasks, waste time and reduce your energy.
My most important time-protecting habit is my morning routine. I wake up at the same time every day, no snoozing the alarm. The first 30 minutes of my morning are screen-free. I drink water, stretch gently, and think about what I want to achieve that day. This calm, intentional start sets a positive tone for the whole day. Another important habit, I batch similar tasks together. For example, I check and reply to all emails at specific times, not constantly throughout the day. Constantly checking emails and messages is one of the biggest time wasters in modern life.
Screen-free mornings and batching tasks, both such practical and effective habits. Now let's talk about distractions, because distractions are one of the greatest enemies of good time use in the modern world. A distraction is anything that takes your attention away from what you are supposed to be doing. In today's world, the biggest distractions are smartphones, especially social media apps and notifications, the internet, easy to start browsing for one thing and find yourself reading something completely unrelated 30 minutes later, television, background noise and interruptions from other people, and our own wandering thoughts. Research shows that after a distraction, it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully return to a focused state.
Managing distractions is something I work on constantly. My most effective strategies: first, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb mode when I need to focus, or I physically leave it in another room. Out of sight really does mean out of mind. Second, I use website blocking apps during work sessions. These prevent me from visiting distracting sites like social media. Third, I communicate my focus time to the people around me, letting them know I need uninterrupted time so they do not disturb me unnecessarily. Fourth, I work in blocks of focus time with short breaks so my brain gets scheduled rest rather than seeking distraction randomly.
A distraction list for random thoughts, that is genius. Writing ideas down instead of chasing them in your head keeps you focused and does not lose the thought. Now let's talk about social media and screen time specifically, because this is probably the most common time waster for people today. Research shows that the average person spends about 6 to 7 hours per day looking at screens, phones, computers, and televisions. Social media platforms are specifically designed to keep you scrolling as long as possible, using psychology to trigger dopamine, the brain's pleasure chemical, with every notification, like, and new post.
My relationship with social media has changed a lot over the years. I used to scroll mindlessly for long periods and feel vaguely empty afterward.
Now I approach it much more intentionally. I deleted most social media apps from my phone and only access them on my computer at specific limited times. I set a daily 30-minute limit for social media, enough to stay connected without losing hours. I also regularly ask myself, is this adding value to my life or am I just passing time? If the honest answer is the second one, I put the phone down.
The feeling without the substance. That is such a powerful and honest description of mindless scrolling. Now let's talk about the value of rest and leisure, because not all non-productive time is wasted time. This is a really important distinction. Rest is necessary and healthy. Your brain and body need recovery time to function well. Leisure activities that bring you joy, reading, cooking, spending time with loved ones, walking in nature, are not wasted time at all. They restore your energy, nurture your creativity, and contribute to your overall well-being and happiness. The key difference is intentionality. Choosing to relax and enjoy yourself is very different from mindlessly drifting from one distraction to another.
Restorative rest is so important and so different from passive time wasting. Here's the distinction I use. Genuine rest leaves you feeling refreshed, energized, and ready to engage with life again. True leisure activities are ones you actively choose because they bring you real joy or restoration. For me, restorative activities include sleeping 8 hours and taking short walks, reading books that genuinely interest me, cooking a new recipe, having meaningful conversations with friends, spending time in nature, and doing absolutely nothing, sitting quietly, thinking, watching the world. What does not restore me? Scrolling social media, watching TV I'm not truly enjoying, or staying in bed beyond what my body actually needs.
After this activity, do I feel better or worse? The perfect test for genuine rest versus time wasting. Now let's talk about goals and time, because having clear goals is one of the most powerful motivators for using time well. When you know exactly what you want to achieve, it is much easier to make decisions about how to spend your time. A useful framework for setting goals is the SMART system. SMART stands for specific, clearly defined, not vague; measurable, you can track your progress; achievable, realistic, not impossible; relevant, connected to what truly matters to you; and time-bound, with a deadline.
Clear goals are transformative for time management. When you have a specific goal with a deadline, every day becomes clearer. You can look at any activity and ask, does this bring me closer to my goal or does it not? If the answer is no, you can choose to spend less time on it. Goals also create motivation and momentum. Progress toward a meaningful goal feels very different from just being busy. Even small daily progress builds confidence and energy. For language learners especially, having a clear goal like, I want to hold a 5-minute conversation in English by the end of this month is so much more motivating and actionable than just, I want to improve my Eng.
Time as a tool for building the life you want. What a beautiful way to think about it. Now, let's do a fun quiz for our listeners. I will describe a situation, and Mark will say whether this person is wasting time or using their time well, and why. Ready? Situation 1. Maria has a big exam in 3 days. She sits down to study, but first spends 20 minutes tidying her desk, sharpening all her pencils, organizing her notes by color, and making a cup of tea. Then she checks her phone briefly. Then she thinks about what to study first. After an hour, she has not actually studied anything. Listeners, what do you think?
Maria is definitely wasting her time, in a very common and recognizable way. What Maria is doing is called productive procrastination, doing tasks that feel useful and organized, but are actually just ways of avoiding the real task, which is studying. Tidying her desk and color-coding her notes feel productive, but they are not the priority right now. The exam is the priority. This pattern is very common because our brains like to do easy, satisfying tasks to avoid the more difficult but more important one. The solution for Maria: set a timer for 25 minutes, open the textbook to the first topic and begin, even if she does not feel completely ready.
Starting imperfectly is always better than waiting perfectly and never beginning. Perfect advice for Maria and for all of us. Now, situation 2 for our quiz. James finishes work at 6 in the evening. He comes home, changes his clothes, and goes for a 30-minute run. Then he cooks a simple dinner while listening to an English podcast. After dinner, he reads a book for 45 minutes. Then he calls his mother for 20 minutes. At 9:30, he puts his phone away and goes to bed at 10:30. Listeners, is James wasting his time? Think about it. His evening seems full of activities, but are they meaningful? Mark, what is your verdict this time?
James is absolutely using his time beautifully. Every activity in his evening is intentional and restorative. Exercise, excellent for physical and mental health. Cooking while listening to a podcast, multitasking in a genuinely useful way, enjoying a skill and learning at the same time. Reading, personal growth, and genuine relaxation. Calling his mother, maintaining an important relationship, and going to bed at a reasonable hour, protecting his sleep and energy for tomorrow. None of these activities is passive or mindless. James is choosing activities that serve his health, his learning, his relationships, and his well-being. This is the ideal evening, not because it is perfect, but because every choice is deliberate and meaningful.
James is my new role model for evenings. Now let's talk about something that many people struggle with, the fear of missing out, or FOMO. FOMO is a common modern feeling, the anxiety that other people are doing exciting things and you're missing out by not being there or not being involved. FOMO often drives people to waste enormous amounts of time on social media, checking what others are doing, attending events they do not truly want to attend, or constantly looking at their phone. The solution to FOMO is sometimes called JOMO, the joy of missing out. This means finding genuine contentment and peace in your own choices, even when others are doing something different.
FOMO is very real, and I have definitely experienced it. The turning point for me was realizing that social media only shows the highlights of people's lives, the best moments, the most exciting experiences. It's never the full picture. So comparing your ordinary Tuesday to someone else's curated holiday photos is always going to make your life seem less interesting, even when your life is actually wonderful. I now practice JOMO very deliberately. When I choose to stay home and read instead of going to a loud party, I enjoy that choice fully, rather than wondering what I'm missing.
Comparison is the thief of joy. That is one of my favorite English expressions. And presence is the antidote to FOMO. What a beautiful and wise thought. Now let's talk about the relationship between time and energy, because managing your energy is just as important as managing your time. You might have 24 hours in a day, but if you spend them exhausted and unfocused, you will not use them well. Understanding when your energy is highest, when you feel most alert, creative, and motivated, is very useful for scheduling your most important tasks at those times. For most people, energy is highest in the morning.
Energy management is something I think about a lot. I have noticed clear patterns in my own energy. My mental energy is highest in the morning. This is when I do my most creative and demanding work. I protect this time fiercely. No emails, no social media, no meetings if possible. Mid-afternoon, around 2 or 3 o'clock, my energy naturally dips. This is normal. Our bodies have a biological tendency toward a rest period in early afternoon. Instead of fighting it with caffeine, I use this time for lighter tasks, responding to emails, attending meetings, or doing administrative work. In the late afternoon, energy often rises again for several hours.
Working with your natural energy rhythms, what a smart and practical approach. Now let's give our listeners some final practical tips for not wasting time. These are simple, actionable steps they can start using immediately. Tip 1. Start each day by identifying your top 3 priorities. Tip 2. Do the most important task first before distractions begin. Tip 3. Put your phone away during focused work time. Tip 4. Use a timer. Work in focused blocks with short breaks. Tip 5. Track your time for 1 week. Write down what you do each hour. The results might surprise you. Tip 6. Learn to say no kindly but clearly.
More practical tips. Tip 8. Set specific times for checking emails and social media, not continuously throughout the day. Tip 9. Get enough sleep. A tired mind wastes far more time than a rested one. Tip 10. Remove apps from your phone that consume time without adding value. Tip 11. Plan your week on Sunday evening. Knowing your schedule reduces decision fatigue during the week. Tip 12. Stop multitasking. Research shows that doing two things at once means doing them both worse. Focus on one thing at a time. Tip 13. Celebrate progress, not perfection. Getting 80% of something done is far better than planning a perfect version forever.
Every hour is an hour of your one precious life. That is perhaps the most important reminder of the entire episode. Let me now give a final summary of everything we talked about today. We discussed what it means to waste time and why people do it: fear, lack of goals, distractions, and procrastination. We talked about the difference between being busy and being productive. We explored procrastination and practical strategies to overcome it. We discussed saying no, daily habits, distractions, social media, and the value of true rest. We talked about SMART goals, energy management, FOMO and JOMO, and we did a fun quiz with Maria and James.
Thank you so much, Anna. This was one of my favorite episodes. And a huge thank you to every single listener who spent this time with us today. And what an appropriate topic that is. You chose to spend time listening to this podcast, learning English, and thinking about how to live more intentionally. That is already an excellent use of your time. Take today's ideas and try just one or two of them this week. Put your phone away for 1 hour. Write your top 3 priorities tomorrow morning. Say no to one thing that does not serve you. Small changes made consistently create enormous transformations over time.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast. My name is Anna, and I am so happy you are here with us today. This podcast is made for beginner English learners, and every episode is simple, friendly, and very useful. Today, we have a really exciting and practical topic. We are going to talk about how to study smart, not hard. Many people spend hours and hours studying, but do not see good results. The problem is often not how much they study, but how they study. I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Mark. Mark, say hello and tell us, were you a smart studier when you were at school?
Hello. Thank you, Anna. Hi to all our wonderful listeners. Was I a smart studier at school? Honestly, no, not at first. I used to sit at my desk for many hours, rereading the same pages over and over, and wondering why I could not remember anything. It was frustrating and exhausting. But over time, I discovered that there are much smarter and more effective ways to study. Today, Anna and I are going to share the best techniques, strategies, and habits that science has proven actually work. By the end of this episode, you will know exactly how to get better results in less time. Let's get started.
Let's start with some important vocabulary for today's topic. To study smart means to use effective, efficient methods that produce the best results in the least amount of time. To study hard simply means to spend a lot of time and effort studying, often without a clear strategy. These are very different things. Other important words: technique, a specific method or way of doing something; strategy, a plan for achieving a goal; retention, the ability to remember and keep information in your memory; and active learning, engaging deeply with material rather than passively reading it; and to cram, to try to learn a large amount of information very quickly just before an exam.
Studying hard without smart strategies is ineffective for one main reason. The human brain does not store information simply because you look at it for a long time. The brain stores information that is meaningful, repeated in smart ways, connected to what it already knows, and retrieved actively. Simply rereading your notes or textbook is one of the least effective study methods science has identified, but it is what most students naturally do. The phrase, "the illusion of knowing," describes this perfectly. When you reread something, it feels familiar, so you think you know it. But familiarity is not the same as real learning. Real learning means you can recall and use information without looking at it.
The illusion of knowing. What a powerful and important concept. Now, let's talk about the first smart study strategy, active recall. Active recall means testing yourself on material instead of just reading it. Instead of looking at your notes and thinking, yes, I know this, you close your notes and try to remember the information from memory. You ask yourself questions. What are the main points of this topic? What did I just read? Can I explain this in my own words without looking? This forces your brain to work hard to retrieve the information, which strengthens the memory much more than passive rereading. A simple tool for active recall is flashcards.
Active recall is one of the most powerful study techniques ever researched. Here's why it works so well. Every time you try to retrieve a piece of information from memory, even if you struggle and cannot remember it perfectly, your brain strengthens the connection to that information. The struggle to remember is not a sign that you are failing. It is actually the learning happening. Psychologists call this the testing effect, or retrieval practice effect. The simple act of testing yourself on material dramatically improves how well you remember it long-term, compared to rereading the same material. Practical ways to use active recall: close your book and write everything you remember.
Teaching the material to an imaginary student. I love that idea. Now, let's talk about the second powerful strategy, spaced repetition. Spaced repetition means reviewing information at gradually increasing intervals over time, rather than studying everything on the same day. For example, you learn something new today, you review it tomorrow, then 3 days later, then a week later, then a month later. Each time you review, the memory gets stronger and lasts longer. This matches the natural way human memory works. Our memories fade over time. Scientists call this the forgetting curve. But each time you review information just before you're about to forget it, the forgetting curve resets and becomes flatter.
Spaced repetition is beautifully simple once you understand it. Imagine you're building a wall with bricks. If you lay all the bricks in one day and never come back, the wall might collapse. But if you add bricks regularly over many days, checking that each layer is solid before adding the next, the wall becomes strong and permanent. Memory works the same way. Trying to learn everything about a topic in one long session, called massed practice or cramming, creates weak temporary memories. Reviewing the same material spread over multiple sessions creates strong, lasting memories. The brilliant thing is, spaced repetition actually requires less total study time than cramming to achieve better long-term results.
What a perfect analogy, building a wall of knowledge brick by brick. Now let's talk about the third strategy, the Pomodoro technique, because this one is specifically about how to manage your study time. The Pomodoro technique was created by Francesco Cirillo in the 1980s. It is very simple. You work with complete focus for 25 minutes. This is called one pomodoro, the Italian word for tomato, because Cirillo used a tomato-shaped kitchen timer. After 25 minutes, you take a 5-minute break. After completing 4 pomodoros, you take a longer break of 15 to 30 minutes. This method works because it creates focused work blocks, prevents mental fatigue, and makes large tasks feel manageable.
Yes, the Pomodoro technique has been genuinely transformative for my productivity. Before I discovered it, I would sit at my desk for 2 or 3 hours feeling increasingly tired, distracted, and unproductive. Now I work in focused 25-minute blocks, and the difference is remarkable. The fixed time limit creates a sense of urgency. You know you only have 25 minutes, so you focus immediately without procrastinating. The regular breaks prevent mental fatigue and keep your concentration fresh across a longer period. And seeing a completed list of Pomodoros at the end of a study session gives a satisfying sense of accomplishment.
Even a struggling student can manage 25 minutes, and that is exactly how to start. Now let's talk about the fourth SMART strategy, interleaving. Interleaving means mixing different subjects or types of problems within a single study session, rather than studying one subject completely before moving to the next. For example, instead of spending 1 hour only on mathematics, you might do 20 minutes of mathematics, then 20 minutes of history, then 20 minutes of biology. This feels less comfortable than studying one subject at a time, but research shows it actually produces much better long-term learning. The slight difficulty and confusion you feel when switching between topics forces your brain to work harder and make connections.
Interleaving works better because of something called desirable difficulty. When studying feels slightly hard and uncomfortable, your brain is actually working more deeply with the material. Studying one subject in one big block feels comfortable and efficient, but it creates an illusion of mastery. You were just warming up to the material. When you switch subjects, you have to start fresh, re-engage your brain, and actively recall what you were working on when you return. This active re-engagement is the real learning happening. Research studies comparing blocked practice, one subject at a time, with interleaved practice consistently find that interleaved learners perform significantly better on tests, even though they often feel less confident during studying.
Desirable difficulty. What a wonderful concept. The slight discomfort is actually the learning. Now let's talk about the environment, because where and how you study has a significant impact on the quality and effectiveness of your studying. A good study environment has several key features. It is free from distractions, especially your phone and social media. It is comfortable, but not too comfortable. Studying in bed, for example, makes many people sleepy. It has good lighting. Natural light is best. It is quiet or has only non-distracting background sound, and it is associated in your mind with studying. If you always study at the same desk, your brain begins to automatically shift into.
My ideal study environment has a few non-negotiables. First, my phone is in another room or on airplane mode, completely out of sight. Notifications are the #1 enemy of focused study. Research shows that even having your phone visible on your desk, even face down, reduces your cognitive capacity. Just seeing it makes you think about it. Second, I sit at a proper desk with good lighting, not on a sofa or in bed. Third, I use noise-canceling headphones, either with silence or instrumental music without lyrics. Lyrics are very distracting when reading or thinking. Fourth, I keep my desk clear of unnecessary objects. Clutter creates mental noise.
A prepared environment is a productive environment. I love that. Now let's talk about something many students do wrong: highlighting and underlining. Many students use colored highlighters on their textbooks and feel very productive while doing it. The page looks neat and colorful, and it feels like studying. But research consistently shows that highlighting and underlining are among the least effective study techniques available. Why? Because they are passive. You are just marking text, not deeply engaging with it. And because students tend to highlight too much, which does not help them identify the most important information. Marking your textbook in yellow does not make your brain remember it better.
Instead of highlighting, students should annotate and engage actively. Here is what effective reading looks like. As you read, ask yourself questions. Why is this important? How does this connect to what I already know? Can I think of an example? Write these thoughts in the margins. This is called annotation. Summarize each section in your own words in the margin or in a separate notebook. This forces active processing. Create a simple outline of the main points without looking at the text. And after finishing a section, close the book and try to write everything you remember. Then check what you missed. These active reading strategies produce dramatically better retention than any amount of highlighting.
Annotation and summarizing in your own words, so much more powerful than highlighting. Now let's talk about the importance of sleep for learning, because many students make the serious mistake of staying up very late to study more, but this is counterproductive. During sleep, especially during the deep sleep and REM stages, your brain actively consolidates memories. It sorts, organizes, and strengthens everything you learned during the day, moving information from short-term to long-term memory. If you deprive yourself of sleep to study more, you are actually undermining the very process that makes your studying effective. The phrase sleep on it has real scientific meaning. Sleeping after learning significantly improves how well you remember.
Sleep is possibly the single most important study tool that almost no student talks about. Here is what happens neurologically. During deep sleep, your brain replays and strengthens the neural pathways formed during the day's learning. During REM sleep, your brain makes creative connections between new information and things you already know. This is why you sometimes wake up with a new understanding of something you were confused about the day before. Studies show that sleeping between a learning session and a test dramatically improves test performance compared to staying awake from more study time. The practical advice? Do your studying, then sleep. Do not cram at the expense of sleep.
Sleep is studying. Every student needs to hear that. Now let's talk about exercise and its relationship to learning, because this surprises many people. Physical exercise is not just good for your body, it is directly beneficial for your brain and your ability to learn. Exercise increases blood flow to the brain, promotes the growth of new brain cells, and releases chemicals like BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which scientists sometimes call miracle grow for the brain because it helps neurons connect and memories form. Studies consistently show that students who exercise regularly have better memory, better concentration, and better academic performance than those who do not.
The difference in my mental performance after exercise is remarkable. On days when I go for a morning run or do even a short workout before studying, my concentration is sharper, my thinking is clearer, and I learn new information much more quickly. On days when I sit at my desk all day without moving, my mind feels foggy and slow by the afternoon. The research strongly supports this personal experience. A study from Harvard found that aerobic exercise, activities that raise your heart rate, actually causes new brain cells to grow in the hippocampus, the area of the brain most responsible for learning and memory.
Move your body to improve your mind. Such a simple and powerful message. Now let's talk about something very important for all learners, the importance of breaks. Many students feel guilty about taking breaks. They think every minute not studying is a minute wasted. But this is wrong. Regular, planned breaks are essential for effective studying. Your brain cannot maintain deep focus indefinitely. After a period of concentrated work, typically 20 to 45 minutes, the quality of your attention decreases significantly. Working through this fatigue does not produce more learning, it produces less. Planned breaks allow your brain to consolidate recent learning, reset your attention, and approach the next session with fresh focus.
Effective study breaks are those that genuinely rest your brain, not those that simply replace one screen with another. Here is what I recommend. Stand up and move. Even walking to the kitchen and back gets blood flowing. Go outside briefly if possible. Fresh air and natural light are genuinely restorative for mental energy. Do a few minutes of gentle stretching. Your body gets stiff from sitting. Have a healthy snack and drink water. Hydration significantly affects cognitive performance. Or simply sit quietly for a few minutes without any screens. What I do not recommend for breaks: checking social media, watching videos, or playing phone games.
A real break means stepping away from all screens. So important and so often ignored. Now let's talk about goal setting for studying, because studying without a clear goal is like driving without a destination. Effective study goals are specific and measurable. Not, I will study English today, but I will learn and review 20 new English vocabulary words with flashcards for 30 minutes today. Not, I will study for my exam, but I will complete and self-test on chapters 3 and 4 today. When your study goal is specific, you know exactly when you have achieved it. This creates motivation, focus, and a satisfying sense of completion when you finish.
Setting effective study goals has transformed my productivity. Here's my simple system. The night before, I decide specifically what I want to accomplish the next day. Not what I want to go over, but what I want to be able to do by the end of the session. For example, by the end of this session, I will be able to recall all 50 vocabulary words without looking at my notes. Or I will complete 10 practice problems and check my answers. Notice that the goal describes a result, something I can verify, not just an activity. I also estimate how long each task will take and plan my sessions accordingly.
Specific outcomes make studying more effective and more satisfying. Perfectly said. Now, let's talk about the myth of multitasking, because many students believe they can study effectively while also doing other things, watching television, texting friends, or listening to music with lyrics. But research is very clear. Multitasking, truly doing two mentally demanding things simultaneously, is not possible for the human brain. What we call multitasking is actually task switching, rapidly moving attention between tasks. And every time you switch, there is a cost, called switching cost, where your attention takes time to fully engage with the new task. This makes every individual task slower and less accurate.
The impact of distractions during studying is much greater than most people realize. Research by Gloria Mark at the University of California found that after being interrupted, even briefly, it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully return to the original task. So one quick check of your phone does not cost you 30 seconds. It potentially costs you more than 20 minutes of full concentration. This means that students who study for 2 hours with frequent phone checks may achieve far less deep learning than students who study with complete focus for just 45 minutes.
Protect your focus fiercely. It is your most precious resource. I want to write that on every student's desk. Now, let's talk about the importance of understanding rather than memorization. Many students try to memorize information without truly understanding it. This creates fragile knowledge. You might remember facts for an exam, but quickly forget them afterward, and you cannot apply them flexibly in new situations. True learning means understanding the underlying concepts, principles, and connections. When you understand something deeply, you can remember it more easily, apply it in different contexts, and transfer it to new situations. In English, I understand why this works, not just that it works. I can explain this in my own words.
Building understanding rather than memorizing is one of the most important learning principles. A powerful technique for this is called the Feynman technique, named after Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman. It works in 4 steps. First, choose a concept you want to understand. Second, explain it as simply and clearly as possible, as if you were teaching a 10-year-old child. Use plain language, no jargon. Third, identify the gaps. Where did your explanation break down? Where did you struggle to explain clearly? Those are the areas you do not truly understand yet. Fourth, go back to your source material and fill those gaps, then repeat.
Simplicity is the sign of true understanding. That is such a powerful principle. Now, let's do a quick quiz for our listeners. I will describe a student's study behavior, and Mark will say whether this student is studying smart and suggest a better approach if needed. Ready? Situation 1. Mia has an exam in 3 days. She opens her textbook and spends 2 hours reading all her notes from the beginning, using a yellow highlighter to mark sentences she thinks are important. She reads everything twice and feels confident she knows it well. Listeners, is Mia studying smart? Think about what we have discussed today. Mark, what is your verdict, and what should Mia do instead?
Mia is unfortunately not studying smart. She is using 2 of the least effective study techniques, passive rereading and highlighting. Rereading creates the illusion of knowing. Because the material looks familiar, she feels confident, but this familiarity is not the same as real memory or understanding. And highlighting is passive. It does not make her brain work hard to remember anything. Here's what Mia should do instead. After one reading, she should close the book and write down everything she can remember. Active recall. She should use flashcards to test herself on key facts. She should spread her review over 3 days, one solid session today, a review tomorrow, and a final review.
Perfect advice for Mia. Now let's look at situation 2. Daniel studies for 30 minutes with complete focus, no phone, no music, at his desk. He uses flashcards to test himself on vocabulary. After 30 minutes, he takes a 10-minute walk outside, then he returns and studies a different subject for 25 minutes using the Pomodoro technique. In the evening, he reviews his earlier flashcards briefly and goes to bed at 10:30 to ensure 8 hours of sleep. Listeners, is Daniel studying smart? What is he doing well? I am very curious to hear Mark's analysis of Daniel's study session.
Daniel is studying brilliantly. Let me go through everything he's doing right. First, 30 minutes of complete distraction-free focus. This protects his concentration and ensures deep learning. Second, using flashcards for vocabulary. This is active recall, one of the best study techniques available. Third, a 10-minute walk for a break. This genuinely restores his brain and increases blood flow. Fourth, switching to a different subject. This is interleaving, which again, research produces better long-term retention. Fifth, a brief evening review of earlier flashcards. This is spaced repetition, consolidating his earlier learning. And sixth, getting 8 hours of sleep, allowing his brain to fully consolidate everything he learned during the day.
Daniel is my new study hero. Now let's talk about something that often gets overlooked, the physical act of writing by hand. In our digital world, many students take notes on laptops or tablets, but research suggests that handwriting notes, physically writing by hand, leads to better learning than typing. The reason is fascinating. When you type, you can transcribe information very quickly, which means you often write down words almost verbatim without deeply processing them. When you write by hand, the process is slower, which forces you to listen more carefully, select the most important information, and put it into your own words. This deeper processing during note-taking leads to better understanding and better retention.
I use both, but for different purposes. For learning new material and attending lectures or classes, I always prefer handwriting in a physical notebook. The slower pace forces me to process and summarize rather than transcribe. My handwritten notes are messier and shorter than typed notes, but they represent what I actually understood, not just what I heard. For organizing and reviewing information later, I sometimes transfer key points to a digital format, which is easier to search and reorganize. If you use a laptop for notes, a simple rule helps. Do not write full sentences. Force yourself to summarize in 4 or 5 words per point. This mimics the processing benefit of handwriting.
Engage your brain, not just your fingers. Such a clear and practical principle. Now let's talk about learning in different ways, what is called multimodal learning. Our brains process and remember information much better when we encounter it in multiple different formats. Reading about a topic is one way, watching a video explanation is another, drawing a diagram is another, explaining it aloud to someone is another, creating a mind map is another. Each different format activates different parts of your brain and creates more connections to the new information, making it easier to remember and apply. For language learners especially, combining reading, listening, speaking, and writing creates much stronger learning than any single method alone.
Multimodal learning is something I practice naturally now, though I did not always do it deliberately. When I'm learning something new, I try to encounter it in at least 3 different ways. First, I read about it from a textbook or article. Second, I find a video explanation. Watching and listening adds a visual and auditory dimension. Third, I write a summary in my own words. This activates writing and deepens processing. And sometimes I also draw a simple diagram or mind map connecting the key ideas visually. For language learning specifically, which is what many of our listeners are doing right now, this means reading English, listening to English, speaking English, and
Every episode of this podcast is already multimodal learning. I love that. You are already studying smart by listening to us. Now let's give our listeners a complete summary of all the smart study strategies we have covered today. Strategy 1. Use active recall. Test yourself instead of rereading. Strategy 2. Use spaced repetition. Review at increasing intervals over time. Strategy 3. Use the Pomodoro technique. 25 minutes focused, 5 minutes break. Strategy 4. Try interleaving. Mix different subjects in one session. Strategy 5. Create a distraction-free study environment. Strategy 6. Annotate and summarize instead of highlighting. Strategy 7. Protect your sleep. It is essential for memory consolidation.
Continuing the strategy list, Strategy 9 sets specific, measurable study goals for each session. Strategy 10, eliminate all distractions, protect your focus fiercely. Strategy 11, build understanding, not just memorization. Use the Feynman technique. Strategy 12, use multimodal learning. Read, watch, write, speak. Strategy 13, take handwritten notes to deepen processing. Strategy 14, never cram. Distributed practice always beats massed practice. Strategy 15, do practice tests and questions, the best exam preparation available. And Strategy 16, teach what you have learned to someone else, or to yourself out loud. If you can explain it clearly and simply, you truly know it.
16 smart study strategies. What an incredible toolkit. I feel like going back to school just listening to this episode. Let me give a final summary of today. We talked about the difference between studying smart and studying hard. We covered active recall, spaced repetition, the Pomodoro technique, and interleaving. We discussed creating a good study environment, the failure of highlighting, and the power of annotation. We talked about sleep, exercise, breaks, goal setting, and the dangers of multitasking. We explored understanding over memorization using the Feynman technique, multimodal learning, and handwritten notes. We did a quiz about Mia and Daniel, and we gave 16 complete study strategies.
Thank you so much, Anna. This was one of the most practically useful episodes we have ever made. And a huge thank you to every listener who joined us today. Remember, studying smart means using your time and energy in the most effective way possible so that you learn more, remember more, and enjoy the process more. Every single one of the strategies we shared today is backed by real scientific research. They work. Start with one small change. Maybe try active recall for just 15 minutes today instead of rereading your notes. Notice the difference. Then add another strategy next week. Small, consistent improvements compound into extraordinary results over time.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast. My name is Anna, and I am so happy you are here with us today. This podcast is made for beginner English learners, and every episode is simple, fun, and useful. Today, we have a really wonderful topic. We are going to talk about books. Reading is one of the best things you can do, and talking about books is very common in English. What is your favorite book? What kind of books do you like? Do you read every day? These are all great conversation questions. I am joined by my fantastic co-host, Mark. Mark loves books too. Mark, say hello and tell us, are you a big reader?
Hello, hello. Thank you, Anna. Hi to all our wonderful listeners. Yes, I am absolutely a big reader. Books have been a huge part of my life since childhood. Today's topic makes me very happy because I love talking about books almost as much as I love reading them. Books are a fantastic topic for English learners because the vocabulary is practical and useful. You can talk about books at school, at work, or with a friend over coffee. Anna and I will share our favorite books, talk about genres, and give you lots of useful phrases. By the end of this episode, you will talk about books naturally. Let's go.
Okay, let's start with the most important question. What is your favorite book? This is one of the most common questions people ask. In English, you can ask it in different ways. What is your favorite book? Or, what book do you recommend? Or, what are you reading right now? To answer, you say, "My favorite book is," or "I really love," or "I recommend." You can also say why. "I love it because the story is exciting," or "The characters are very interesting." Mark, what is your favorite book? Tell our listeners. Make it sound interesting so everyone wants to read it.
Great question. My absolute favorite book is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. It is a short novel, not very long, but it is incredibly powerful. The story follows a young shepherd boy named Santiago who travels from Spain to Egypt looking for treasure, but the real journey is inside him. He learns about following your dreams, listening to your heart, and finding your purpose in life. The language is simple and beautiful, which makes it perfect for English learners too. I have read it 3 times. Every time I read it, I find something new. It gives me a feeling of hope and motivation. I genuinely recommend it to everyone. Anna, what is your favorite book?
Oh, I love The Alchemist too. My absolute favorite book is Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Maud Montgomery. It is a classic novel about a young orphaned girl named Anne who goes to live with an older brother and sister on a farm in Canada. Anne is funny, creative, imaginative, and full of life. I first read this book when I was 10 years old, and I have loved it ever since. It is warm, funny, and very heartfelt. It teaches about friendship, family, and finding your place in the world. I think Anne is one of the most lovable characters in all of literature. Have you read it, Mark?
I have not read Anne of Green Gables, but now I really want to. I love books with memorable characters. Another favorite of mine is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. It is set in the southern United States in the 1930s and told through the eyes of a young girl named Scout. Her father, Atticus Finch, is a lawyer who defends a man wrongly accused of a crime. The book is about justice, courage, and doing what is right even when it is difficult. It is beautifully written and very moving. It is considered one of the greatest American novels ever written. The themes are serious, but the story is very warm.
To Kill a Mockingbird is a masterpiece. Atticus Finch is one of the most admirable characters in literature. Now let's talk about different types of books, because there are many. Genres means categories. Fiction is a story that is not real. The author made it up. Nonfiction is writing about real events or real people. A novel is a long fiction story. A short story is a brief fiction story. A biography is the story of a real person's life written by someone else. An autobiography is written by the person themselves. A self-help book gives advice on improving your life. Mark, what types of books do you enjoy?
I enjoy many different types. My favorite genre is literary fiction, serious, beautifully written fiction that explores deep themes about life. But I also love historical fiction, stories set in the past, mixing real events with invented characters. The Name of the Rose and Wolf Hall are incredible examples. I also enjoy nonfiction, especially books about science, philosophy, and history. And I love poetry. Short, beautiful language that captures a feeling in just a few words. Reading different types of books makes you a more well-rounded person. What about you, Anna?
I love literary fiction too, but I also really enjoy mystery and detective novels. There is something so satisfying about following the clues and trying to solve the mystery before the detective does. My favorite mystery writer is Agatha Christie, a British author who wrote over 60 novels. Her most famous characters are Hercule Poirot, a brilliant detective, and Miss Marple, an elderly woman who solves crimes. Christie's writing is very clear and clever. I also love travel writing and memoirs, personal stories about someone's real experiences. They make me feel inspired and motivated to try new things. Mark, do you like mystery books?
I enjoy mystery books, but I prefer something with more psychological depth. One genre I love is magical realism, when realistic stories have elements of magic treated as completely normal. Gabriel Garcia Marquez is the most famous example. His novel, 100 Years of Solitude, is one of the greatest novels ever written. It tells the story of a family over many generations, and magical things happen alongside ordinary life. It is dreamy, beautiful, and unlike anything else I have read. I also love science fiction, stories set in the future or in space. I grew up reading science fiction and it expanded my imagination greatly. Anna, do you like fantasy or science fiction?
I enjoy some fantasy, but I am more of a realistic fiction reader. However, I absolutely love the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. I know many people consider it children's literature, but these books have something magical for readers of all ages. The story of Harry's friendship with Ron and Hermione is beautiful. The themes of love, friendship, and courage are universal. I first read the books as a teenager, and they completely captured my imagination. I also love The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, a fantastic adventure about a small creature who goes on a great journey. Do you like Harry Potter, Mark?
I absolutely love Harry Potter. I read all 7 books and each one got better. What I love most is how detailed the world is. Rowling created an entire universe with its own rules, history, and magic. The characters feel so real. The friendship between Harry, Ron, and Hermione is one of the most heartwarming things in literature. I also love The Lord of the Rings by Tolkien, a magnificent epic about friendship and the struggle between good and evil. Tolkien basically invented the modern fantasy genre. The world of Middle-earth feels completely real. Great fantasy novels are deeply human stories.
Great fantasy novels are deeply human stories. So true. Now, let's learn vocabulary for describing a book. These words are very useful. A plot is the story, what happens. A character is a person in the story. The setting is the place and time. A theme is the main idea or message. A chapter is a section of the book. The author wrote the book. A narrator tells the story. A sequel is the next book in a series. Mark, can you give some example sentences using these words so our listeners can practice?
Here are natural example sentences. The plot is very exciting. Something surprising happens in each chapter. My favorite character is the main hero. He's brave, kind, and funny. The setting is Paris in the 1920s. The main theme is about finding courage when life is difficult. I finished the last chapter at midnight. I could not put it down. The author writes in a very clear style, which makes the book easy to enjoy. The narrator is a child, which gives a fresh perspective. I loved this book so much, I immediately bought the sequel. Try using these words in your own sentences.
Those example sentences are wonderful. Now let's talk about recommending a book. Some great phrases. You should read this book. It is amazing. I really recommend it. I could not stop reading. This book changed my life. I could not put it down. This means it was too exciting to stop. It's a real page-turner. So exciting you keep turning pages. This book made me laugh and cry. The ending completely surprised me. The writing is beautiful. Mark, can you give some phrases for describing a book you did not enjoy?
Sure, sometimes a book is not right for you, and that's okay. Here are some honest phrases. I did not enjoy this book. It was too slow for me. The characters felt a little flat. Flat means not deep or realistic. I could not connect with the main character. The plot was too complicated to follow. It was not my genre, so maybe that's why I didn't love it. It wasn't the right time for me to read it. I might try again when I'm in the right mood. Being honest about books is perfectly fine. Not every book is for everyone, and that's okay.
It was not the right time for me. I love that phrase. Sometimes we read a book at the wrong time in our lives and it does not connect. But if we read it later, it becomes a favorite. Now let's talk about reading habits. In English, you talk about habits using usually, always, sometimes, and never. For example, I usually read before bed. I always have a book in my bag. I sometimes read on the bus. I never read when I am very tired. Mark, tell our listeners about your reading habits. When and where do you like to read?
I try to read every day, even for 20 minutes. Reading before bed is my favorite habit. It helps me relax and fall asleep. My favorite place to read is in a comfortable armchair by the window with a cup of tea. I also love reading in a park when the weather is nice. I always have a book with me, on my phone as an e-book or a paperback in my bag. I read a mix of fiction and nonfiction throughout the year.
I usually read about 20 books per year and track them in a little notebook. What about you, Anna?
I read every night before bed, too. It helps my mind slow down after a busy day much better than looking at a phone. I love reading in cozy places, in bed with a warm blanket, or in a cafe on a rainy afternoon. I prefer physical books because I love turning the pages and the smell of a new book. There is a special word for the smell of old books. It is called bibliosmia. Is that not a wonderful word? Mark, do you prefer ebooks or physical books?
Bibliosmia. I love that word. I enjoyed both formats. Physical books are special. You can write notes in the margins and they look beautiful on a bookshelf. But ebooks are incredibly convenient. I can carry 100 books on my phone and buy one instantly. I use ebooks for travel because physical books are heavy in a suitcase. I also listen to audiobooks when I am cooking or exercising. Audiobooks are books read aloud, fantastic for language learners because you hear correct pronunciation and natural English.
Audiobooks are amazing for language learning. You pick up vocabulary and pronunciation just by listening. Now let's do a quiz. I will describe a famous book, and Mark will guess the title. Listeners, you can try to guess too. Ready? Here is the first one. This book is about a young boy who receives a letter saying he is accepted at a special school for magic. He did not know he was a wizard. He makes two best friends and fights against a powerful, evil enemy. It is a very famous series of 7 books. Mark and listeners, what is it? This book is loved by children and adults all over the world.
That is easy. Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling. The first book is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Almost everyone in the world knows this story. Okay, here's one from me. A young girl falls asleep in a forest and enters a magical underground world. She meets very strange creatures. She plays cards with a queen who shouts, "Off with their heads," at everyone. When she wakes up, it was all a dream. Anna, what is the title? Listeners, think carefully. It was written by a British author in the 1800s and is a beloved classic.
That is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. I love that story. Alice is so brave and curious. Here's one more for our listeners. A poor young woman in 19th century England works as a governess. She falls in love with her employer, a mysterious man named Mr. Rochester. But there is a terrible secret hidden in the house. It is a story of love, independence, and strong moral values. This is one of the most famous novels in English literature. Mark and listeners, what is the title? Take a guess.
Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. What a magnificent novel. Jane is one of literature's greatest heroines, so independent and self-respecting. The famous line, "Reader, I married him," is one of the most celebrated sentences in English literature. Okay, last quiz question from me. A pilot crashes his plane in the desert and meets a little boy from a tiny planet in space. The boy asks deep and simple questions about love and friendship. The book has beautiful, simple drawings. Anna, what is it?
The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, one of the most beautiful books ever written. It is the most translated book in history after the Bible. The most famous line is, "What is essential is invisible to the eye." The most important things, like love and friendship, cannot be seen, only felt in your heart. It sounds like a children's book, but is full of deep wisdom for adults. I first read it at school and did not fully understand it. I read it as an adult and cried. That is the sign of a truly great book. Mark, have you cried reading a book?
Yes, I have cried reading books. Crying means the author really connected with your emotions. The book that made me cry most was The Road by Cormac McCarthy, about a father and son surviving in a destroyed world. The love between them is overwhelming to read. I also cried at Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, a short but devastating novel about friendship and broken dreams. And I always get emotional at Charlotte's Web, a beautiful children's book about a spider who saves her friend. Truly heartbreaking. Anna, have you cried reading a book?
Yes, books make me cry more than films. A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara made me cry the most. It is a very emotional novel about four friends in New York City. One of them has a very difficult and painful life. I also cried reading The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini about friendship, guilt, and redemption set in Afghanistan. And I always cry at Bridge to Terabithia, a children's novel about two best friends. Books that make you feel deeply are the ones you remember forever. Mark, what book has made you laugh the most?
Three Men in a Boat by Jerome K. Jerome makes me laugh the most. It's a comic novel from 1889 about three friends and a dog on a boat trip. Everything goes wrong in the funniest way. The writing is brilliantly witty and still feels modern. I also love Terry Pratchett's Discworld series, hilarious fantasy novels set on a flat world carried through space on a giant turtle. And The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe by Douglas Adams, a hilarious story about a man who accidentally travels across the universe. Incredibly funny.
Now let's talk about children's books. Great children's books teach kids about empathy, courage, and imagination. They are also wonderful for adult English learners because the vocabulary is clear and simple. My favorite children's book is The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle, a picture book about a caterpillar who eats lots of food and eventually becomes a beautiful butterfly, a beautiful message about growth. I also love Matilda by Roald Dahl, a story about a brilliant girl with magical powers who loves reading. Mark, what are your favorite children's books?
Children's books are magical. My favorite is Where the Wild Things Are, a picture book about a naughty boy named Max who travels in his imagination to a land of wild monsters, but he misses home and returns. It's about imagination, home, and love. I also love all of Roald Dahl's books. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, James and the Giant Peach, the BFG, and Fantastic Mr. Fox are all brilliant. Dahl wrote stories that are exciting, funny, and slightly dark, perfect for children and adults alike. Reading Dahl in English is great practice.
Roald Dahl is absolutely a genius. Now let's talk about something practical, how reading in English can improve your skills. When you read in English, you see new vocabulary in real sentences. You learn grammar naturally, you improve your spelling, and absorb different writing styles. For beginners, I recommend starting with graded readers, books simplified to different difficulty levels like A1, A2, or B1. They are perfect for building reading confidence gradually. Mark, can you give some more tips on reading in English as a language learner?
Here are my top tips for reading in English. First, start easy. Choose books below your level so you enjoy the experience. A book you enjoy is better than a difficult one you put down. Second, when you find a new word, guess the meaning from context before checking a dictionary. Third, read a little every day. Even 10 minutes is enough. Fourth, keep a vocabulary notebook for interesting new words. Fifth, try reading a book you already know in your language. The familiar story helps your brain fill in gaps. Happy reading, everyone!
Those are fantastic tips. Starting easy is so important. Many learners choose difficult books and feel discouraged. Now let's talk about more book genres. Romance, stories about love; thriller, exciting stories full of danger; horror, scary stories; science fiction, stories about the future or space; biography, the real-life story of a famous person; travel writing, books about journeys in different places; self-help, books with advice for improving your life. Mark, which genres do you read the most?
I read mostly literary fiction and nonfiction. For nonfiction, I love books about history, science, and psychology. My favorites include Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari, a fascinating history of humanity, and Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, which explains how our brains work. I also love The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, about mindfulness. For fiction, I love beautiful language and interesting ideas. I prefer slower, more thoughtful books, but every genre has value. The most important thing is to find what you love and read it.
Sapiens is incredible. I love nonfiction that feels like reading a great story. Now let's talk about famous authors English learners should know. William Shakespeare is the most famous writer in English. He wrote plays and poems in the 1500s and 1600s. Charles Dickens wrote wonderful novels about Victorian England like Oliver Twist. Jane Austen wrote beautiful novels about society and romance like Pride and Prejudice. Ernest Hemingway wrote short, powerful sentences about war and love. Mark, which author would you recommend to an English learner?
I strongly recommend George Orwell to any English learner. Orwell is famous for Animal Farm and 1984. Animal Farm is about farm animals who take over their farm, but it is really about political power and how it can corrupt. It is short, easy to read, and very powerful. 1984 is about a future society where the government controls everything, including thoughts. Orwell's English is clear, precise, and beautiful. Reading Orwell will improve your writing and thinking. Start with Animal Farm. I highly recommend it.
George Orwell is such an important author. Animal Farm is perfect for English learners, short, clear, and unforgettable. Now let's talk about book clubs, groups of people who read the same book and meet to discuss it. Useful phrases: I am in a book club. We meet once a month. This month we are reading. I really enjoyed this book. I disagreed with the main character. My favorite part was when... Book clubs are wonderful for sharing ideas and practicing English speaking skills. Mark, have you ever been in a book club?
Yes, I was in a book club for 3 years and loved it. We had 8 people and met at someone's home every month. One person chose the book, then we all discussed it over dinner. It was wonderful. Everyone had different opinions about the same story. We read Gone Girl, Normal People, Pachinko, and many others. I learned so much about other people's perspectives and how to express opinions clearly. I would recommend a book club to anyone who loves reading. It makes reading a social and enjoyable activity.
A book club sounds wonderful. Now let's practice phrases for talking about books. To recommend a book, you have to read this. This is one of the best books I have read. I think you would love this. The writing is beautiful. The story stays with you. To ask someone about a book, what is it about? Who is the main character? Is it part of a series? Is it easy to read? Did you enjoy it? Mark, can you show how to use these phrases in a natural, short conversation?
Hey, what are you reading? I just finished The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. You have to read it.
What is it about?
A woman discovers a library between life and death. Each book shows a different version of her life.
That sounds amazing. Is it easy to read?
Yes, very. The writing is beautiful and the story stays with you. Is it part of a series?
No, just one book.
Is it available as an ebook?
Yes, I think you will love it. It makes you think about your own choices.
Very natural book conversation.
That conversation is perfect. The Midnight Library is a wonderful recommendation. I love books that make you think about your own life. Now I want to talk about something very interesting: how books can change your life. A good book can teach you things, change how you see the world, help you understand other people, and even inspire you to make important changes. Have you ever read a book that genuinely changed your life, Mark? I think this is a beautiful question for our listeners to think about too. What book has changed how you see things or how you live?
Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl completely changed my perspective on life. Viktor Frankl survived Nazi concentration camps and wrote about finding meaning even in terrible suffering. The book teaches that we cannot control everything that happens, but we can always choose how we respond. That idea changed how I handle difficulties. I also love Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, personal thoughts about discipline, kindness, and living a good life. Written nearly 2,000 years ago, but completely relevant today. Books can truly transform you.
Now let's give our listeners some final tips. Tip 1, make reading a daily habit. Even 10 minutes is enough. Tip 2, choose books you genuinely enjoy. Tip 3, use a dictionary app, but try to guess the meaning first. Tip 4, talk about what you read. Tell a friend or write a short review. Talking about books helps you remember them. Tip 5, do not give up on a book too quickly. Sometimes a story needs a few chapters to become interesting. But if you truly dislike a book, it is okay to stop. Life is too short for bad books. Mark, any final tips?
Great tips. Here are a few more. Tip 6. Reread a book you loved as a child. You will often discover a completely different meaning as an adult. Tip 7. Read books about places you want to visit. Tip 8. Follow authors online or read interviews. It adds a personal connection to their books. Tip 9. Visit a library or secondhand bookshop. Wonderful places full of treasure. Tip 10. Trust your own taste. Some love classics, some love modern fiction, some love graphic novels. All reading is valuable. The best book is the one you want to pick up. Happy reading!
What a wonderful episode! I hope our listeners feel excited about reading after today. A final summary, we discussed favorite books and authors from The Alchemist to Shakespeare and Orwell. We talked about genres, fiction, mystery, fantasy, romance, and more. We learned book vocabulary, plot, character, setting, theme. We practiced phrases for recommending books. We did a fun quiz and talked about books that made us cry, laugh, and think. Thank you for listening. Books are windows to the world. Keep reading, keep learning, and keep growing. See you next time.
Thank you so much, Anna, and a huge thank you to every listener today. Books are truly one of life's greatest gifts. They cost very little or nothing at a library, but they give you so much. New worlds, new ideas, and new understanding of yourself and others. If you are learning English, books are one of your most powerful tools. Start with something simple and enjoyable. Read a little every day and watch your English grow. Share your favorite books with a friend learning English. It is a wonderful conversation starter. Take great care of yourselves. Keep reading, and goodbye.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast. My name is Anna, and I am so happy you are here with us today. This podcast is made for beginner English learners, and every episode is simple, friendly, and useful. Today, we have a very special and meaningful topic. We are going to talk about freedom. Freedom is one of the most important words in the English language. People talk about freedom every day, in politics, in daily life, in relationships, and in their personal goals and dreams. I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Mark. Mark, say hello and tell us, what does the word freedom mean to you?
Hello, hello. Thank you, Anna. Hi to all our wonderful listeners. The word freedom means a great deal to me. At its most basic level, freedom means the ability to make your own choices without being controlled or stopped by others. But freedom is also much bigger than that. It is about opportunity, dignity, and the right to live your life in a way that feels true to who you are. Today, Anna and I are going to explore freedom from many different angles: personal freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of movement, and much more. We will also share lots of useful English vocabulary and phrases. Let's begin this important and inspiring conversation.
Let's start with the basics. What does freedom actually mean? Freedom means the state of being free, being able to act, speak, or think without restriction. The adjective form is free. For example, she feels free to speak her mind. He is free to go wherever he wants. The opposite of freedom is restriction, control, or oppression. A person without freedom is controlled, limited, or imprisoned. In English, there are many related words. Liberty, which means almost the same as freedom, often used in formal or political contexts. Rights, the things you are legally allowed to do. Equality, when everyone has the same rights and opportunities.
Great question. There are many important types of freedom that people talk about in everyday life and in society. Freedom of speech, the right to say what you think without punishment. Freedom of movement, the ability to travel and live where you choose. Freedom of religion, the right to practice any religion or no religion at all. Freedom of the press, the right of journalists to report the news without government control. Personal freedom, the right to live your private life as you choose. Economic freedom, the ability to work,
earn money, and spend it as you wish.
Those are all such important types of freedom. Now let's talk about personal freedom in everyday life, because this is something everyone experiences directly. Personal freedom means making your own choices about how to live. For example, choosing what career to pursue, choosing who to love and spend your life with, choosing what to eat, wear, and believe, choosing how to spend your free time. When we have personal freedom, we feel in control of our own lives. When we lose it, even in small ways, we feel frustrated or unhappy. In English, we use phrases like, I want to make my own decisions. I do not want anyone to tell me what to do. I feel.
That is a really interesting question. I feel very fortunate to have a great degree of personal freedom in my daily life. I can choose my work, my friends, my home, and how I spend my time. I can speak my opinions openly and practice whatever beliefs I hold. But I also recognize that true freedom requires responsibility. Freedom does not mean doing whatever you want without thinking about others. As the saying goes, your freedom ends where another person's freedom begins. This means that we must exercise our own freedom in a way that respects the rights and well-being of others.
Your freedom ends where another person's freedom begins. What a powerful and wise saying. Now let's talk about freedom of speech, because this is one of the most discussed and debated freedoms in the modern world. Freedom of speech means you have the right to express your opinions, ideas, and beliefs in conversation, in writing, in art, and in public. In democratic countries, freedom of speech is protected by law. However, even in countries with this protection, there are limits. For example, you cannot use speech to incite violence or spread dangerous lies that harm others. In English, useful phrases related to speech and expression, I have the right to say what I think. Everyone is free.
Freedom of speech is essential for so many reasons. First, it allows people to criticize their government and powerful institutions without fear. This is the foundation of a healthy democracy. Leaders who cannot be criticized tend to become corrupt and dangerous. Second, freedom of speech allows new ideas to be shared and debated. Science, art, and social progress all depend on the free exchange of ideas. Third, it allows individuals to tell their stories and have their experiences heard. When people cannot speak freely, injustice can be hidden. The phrase, sunlight is the best disinfectant, is a famous saying meaning that transparency, bringing things into the open, helps society stay clean and fair.
Sunlight is the best disinfectant. What a vivid and memorable phrase. Now, let's talk about freedom of movement, because this is something many people take for granted. Freedom of movement means the ability to travel freely within your own country and, in some cases, to other countries. In the European Union, for example, citizens of member countries can live and work in any other member country without needing special permission. This is a remarkable freedom that millions of people benefit from. However, not everyone in the world has this freedom. People in some countries face restrictions on where they can travel.
I think about this topic quite deeply. I am very fortunate to hold a passport that allows me to travel to many countries with little difficulty, but I am aware that this is not the case for everyone in the world. Passport privilege is a real thing. The passport you hold largely determines how freely you can move around the world. Citizens of some countries can visit over 180 countries without a visa. Citizens of other countries can only visit a handful of places freely. This inequality is something many people do not think about. When I travel, I try to remember that the ease of my movement is a privilege, not something everyone shares.
Passport privilege is such a thought-provoking term. Now, let's talk about freedom and responsibility, because these two ideas are always connected. Having freedom means you also have responsibility for your choices and for how they affect others. This is true in everyday life and in society as a whole. For example, the freedom to drive a car comes with the responsibility to follow traffic laws and drive safely. The freedom to own a business comes with the responsibility to treat your workers fairly. The freedom to speak publicly comes with the responsibility to be truthful and respectful. In English, a popular phrase is, "With great power comes great responsibility." Mark, can you give more examples of how freedom—
Freedom and responsibility are truly inseparable. Here are more everyday examples. The freedom to use social media comes with the responsibility not to spread false information or bully others online. The freedom to have children comes with the enormous responsibility of caring for and raising them well. The freedom to live in a democratic country comes with the responsibility to participate by voting, staying informed, and being an active citizen. The freedom to eat whatever you choose comes with the responsibility to consider the impact on your health and on the environment. And the freedom to have a voice comes with the responsibility to listen as well as speak.
Responsibility transforms freedom from selfishness into wisdom. Beautifully said. Now, let's talk about financial freedom, because this is something many people dream about. Financial freedom means having enough money saved and invested that you do not need to work just to pay your basic bills. It means you have choices about how to spend your time, rather than being forced to work long hours in a job you dislike. Some people achieve financial freedom through saving carefully, investing wisely, and spending less than they earn over many years. Others build businesses that eventually provide passive income, money that comes in without requiring constant active work.
Financial freedom is something I think about a lot. To me, it does not necessarily mean being extremely wealthy. It means having enough to cover your needs comfortably, enough savings to handle unexpected problems, and enough flexibility to make choices based on what you value rather than just financial necessity. I do believe it is achievable for many people through consistent saving habits, living within your means, and making smart decisions about money over time. However, I also recognize that structural inequalities in society make financial freedom much harder for some people than others. Wages, access to education, healthcare costs, and economic opportunity are not equally distributed.
Living within your means is such a key phrase for financial freedom. Now, let's talk about freedom and relationships, because the way freedom operates within personal relationships is very interesting. In a healthy relationship, whether a friendship, a romantic relationship, or a family relationship, both people should feel free to be themselves. They should be able to express their thoughts and feelings honestly, pursue their own interests and friendships outside the relationship, and make personal decisions without constant control or judgment. When one person in a relationship controls or restricts the other too much, it becomes unhealthy. In English, we use phrases like, "I feel free to be myself with you." A good relationship gives you space.
Healthy freedom in a relationship is so important. I think it means mutual trust and respect, trusting your partner enough to give them space and respecting their individuality and independence. It means supporting each other's separate friendships, hobbies, and personal goals. It means being able to disagree, express different opinions, and even spend time apart without feeling threatened or jealous. The phrase "love sets you free" suggests that real love does not trap or restrict, it liberates. A partner who loves you genuinely wants you to grow, explore, and be your full self. Controlling behavior, checking someone's phone, limiting their friendships, or making all decisions for them is the opposite of love.
Real love and real freedom go hand in hand. What a beautiful and true statement. Now let's talk about freedom and creativity. When we have the freedom to create, to write, paint, sing, dance, build, or imagine, we express our most genuine and unique selves. Creative freedom means making art or ideas without being told exactly what to think or produce. History shows us that some of the greatest works of art and literature were created in conditions of restriction, people finding creative freedom even in difficult circumstances. In English, we often say someone has creative freedom when they are given space to make their own artistic decisions.
Creativity and freedom are deeply connected, though creativity is remarkably resilient. It finds expression even in the most restrictive conditions. Many great artists, writers, and musicians have created extraordinary work under censorship, poverty, or oppression. They found ways to communicate truth through metaphor, symbol, and hidden meaning. However, I believe creativity truly flourishes when people have genuine freedom. Freedom to explore ideas without fear, freedom to challenge conventions, freedom to fail and try again. When people feel free, they take creative risks, and creative risk-taking leads to real innovation and beauty. The phrase, "necessity is the mother of invention," suggests that even restriction can drive creativity, but I believe freedom is still the best environment for it.
Freedom is the best environment for the human creative spirit to bloom. I love that image. Now let's talk about freedom and nature. Many people feel a profound sense of freedom when they are in nature, in the mountains, by the sea, in a forest, or in a wide open field. Being in nature removes the restrictions of daily life. No screens, no schedules, no demands. You can move freely, breathe fresh air, and feel connected to something larger than yourself. In English, we have beautiful phrases about this feeling. Feeling free as a bird, the open road, the great outdoors, and breathing room, meaning space to relax and think freely.
I feel enormously free in nature. There is something almost magical about being in a wide-open natural landscape. When I hike in the mountains, I feel the weight of everyday worries literally lift from my shoulders. The scale of the landscape, the vast sky, the distant horizon, the silence puts everything in perspective. Small problems seem less important. Big questions feel more approachable. The phrase, "to get some headspace," means to gain mental clarity and perspective, and nature does this beautifully. I think many people in modern, busy urban lives are deeply hungry for this kind of freedom, the simple freedom of open space, fresh air, and quiet.
To get some headspace, such a useful and evocative phrase. Now let me ask you something a little different. Is absolute freedom, total freedom with no rules or limits at all, actually desirable? This is a very interesting philosophical question. If there were absolutely no rules, no laws, and no limits on what anyone could do, would people be more free, or would life become dangerous and chaotic? Many philosophers have thought about this question. Thomas Hobbes, a famous English philosopher, argued that without rules, life would be nasty, brutish, and short. Others argue that freedom requires some structure to protect everyone's rights. Mark, what do you think? Is total, unlimited freedom actually a good thing?
This is a fascinating question. I do not think total, unlimited freedom is truly desirable or even possible in a society. Here's why. If one person has total freedom to do absolutely anything, then other people lose their freedom because they become victims of that person's unchecked actions. True freedom for everyone requires a social agreement, rules and laws that protect each person's rights and prevent one person from violating another's. This is the idea behind the social contract in political philosophy. We give up some absolute freedoms, like the freedom to harm others without consequence, in exchange for living safely and cooperatively in society.
Structured freedom is the most meaningful kind. What a clear and wise conclusion. Now let's talk about freedom and education. Education is one of the most powerful tools for creating genuine freedom. When you have knowledge, when you can read, think critically, understand the world, and communicate effectively, you have more choices in life. You are less likely to be manipulated or deceived. You are better equipped to participate in society and advocate for yourself and others. In English, the phrase "knowledge is power" directly connects learning to freedom and empowerment. Nelson Mandela, one of the world's most famous advocates for freedom, said, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world."
Education creates freedom in so many ways. First, it opens economic doors. People with education generally have more career options, higher earning potential, and greater financial security. Second, it develops critical thinking, the ability to analyze information, question assumptions, and form your own opinions rather than simply accepting what others tell you. This is essential for personal and political freedom. Third, it builds communication skills. Being able to speak and write clearly and persuasively gives you a powerful voice in the world. Fourth, it expands your understanding of different cultures, perspectives, and possibilities, broadening your sense of what's possible for your own life.
Education truly is liberation. I love that. And for our listeners learning English, this podcast is part of your educational freedom journey. Now let's talk about freedom and technology. In many ways, technology has given people extraordinary new freedoms. The internet allows free access to information from anywhere in the world. Social media gives ordinary people a global voice. Remote work allows people to work from any location. Online learning removes geographical barriers to education. Translation technology breaks down language barriers. These are remarkable freedoms that did not exist for most of human history. However, technology also brings new restrictions and risks. Mark, do you think technology makes us more free or less free overall?
Technology is a genuinely double-edged sword when it comes to freedom. On the positive side, the internet has democratized information, giving billions of people access to knowledge that was previously only available to the privileged few. It has given voices to marginalized communities. It has connected people across borders and cultures. On the negative side, technology can reduce freedom in serious ways. Governments can use technology for surveillance, tracking citizens' movements and communications. Social media algorithms can create information bubbles, limiting the range of ideas people are exposed to. And constant connectivity can create a sense of never being truly free from work, news, or social obligations.
Technology amplifies both freedom and restriction. Such an insightful and balanced observation. Now, let's talk about some important people in history who fought for freedom. The world has been shaped by remarkable individuals who sacrificed enormously to expand freedom for others. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison fighting against apartheid, the system of racial separation and inequality in South Africa. He became a global symbol of courage and the struggle for equality. Mahatma Gandhi led India's peaceful independence movement against British colonial rule. Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a bus in Alabama in 1955, becoming a symbol of the American civil rights movement.
So many incredible people have fought for freedom throughout history. Harriet Tubman escaped slavery in the United States and then led many others to freedom through a secret network of safe houses called the Underground Railroad, one of the most courageous acts of resistance in American history. Malala Yousafzai, still young today, has fought for girls' right to education in Pakistan and around the world, surviving a serious attack for speaking out. Aung San Suu Kyi spent many years under house arrest in Myanmar for advocating democracy. Frederick Douglass escaped slavery and became one of the most powerful voices against it through his writing and speeches.
What an inspiring list of extraordinary people. Freedom is not given, it must often be fought for. That sentence gives me goosebumps. Now let's talk about a very simple but meaningful question. What does freedom feel like in everyday life? Not the big political or philosophical kind, but the small, daily feeling of being free. The feeling when you finish work on a Friday evening and have a whole weekend ahead. The feeling when you finish an exam or a difficult project. The feeling when you step outside on a beautiful morning with nowhere specific to be. The feeling of being completely understood by a good friend.
Oh, I love this question. The everyday moments of freedom are some of the most precious. My favorites, the feeling of finishing a challenging piece of work and closing my laptop, knowing the task is done and I am free. The moment I step off a plane in a new country and feel the air of a different place, pure freedom of possibility. Sunday morning with no schedule, drinking coffee slowly, reading a book with nowhere to be.
A long walk with no destination, just walking where curiosity leads me. And the wonderful feeling of laughing deeply with close friends. Being so comfortable and accepted that you can be completely yourself.
Being fully yourself with no pretense. That is such a profound definition of freedom. Now, let's talk about inner freedom, freedom of the mind and spirit. This is perhaps the deepest kind of freedom. You can be physically restricted in a difficult job, in a difficult place, in a difficult situation, and still have inner freedom. Inner freedom is the freedom to choose how you think, what you value, and how you respond to your circumstances. Viktor Frankl, an Austrian psychiatrist who survived Nazi concentration camps, wrote about this beautifully in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. He said that even in the most terrible circumstances, the last human freedom is the freedom to choose.
Viktor Frankl's idea of inner freedom is one of the most powerful and moving concepts I have ever encountered. He demonstrated that even in conditions of extreme suffering and total physical restriction, a person can maintain their dignity and their inner life. They can choose to find meaning, to maintain hope, to act with love and courage. This is an extraordinary and inspiring insight. Stoic philosophy, an ancient Greek and Roman tradition, also emphasizes inner freedom. The Stoics taught that we cannot always control external events, but we can always control our response to them. The phrase respond, do not react captures this idea.
Respond, do not react. Such a powerful phrase for daily life. Now let's give our listeners some useful English expressions and idioms related to freedom. Free as a bird, completely free with no restrictions. Break free, to escape from something that was holding you back. Set someone free, to release someone from restriction. Give someone free rein, to allow them to do whatever they choose. Footloose and fancy-free, having no responsibilities or commitments, completely free. The world is your oyster. You have complete freedom and many opportunities in front of you. Cut loose, to become free from something, often to relax and have fun.
More wonderful freedom expressions. Born free, a famous phrase from a song and film about a wild lion, meaning freedom is a natural state. Fly the nest, when young adults leave home and become independent for the first time. Spread your wings, to explore new opportunities and become more independent. No strings attached, complete freedom with no hidden conditions or obligations. The open road, a symbol of freedom and adventure, often used when talking about travel or new beginnings. Think outside the box, to be free in your thinking, not limited by conventional ideas.
March to the beat of your own drum is one of my all-time favorite English expressions. It beautifully captures the idea of living authentically and independently. Now let's talk about the relationship between freedom and happiness. Research in psychology suggests that having choices, having freedom, does make people happier, to a point. But too many choices can actually cause anxiety and dissatisfaction. This is called the paradox of choice. Psychologist Barry Schwartz found that when people have too many options, they often feel less satisfied with their final choice because they wonder if a different choice would have been better. So freedom and happiness are connected, but the relationship is more complex than it first appears.
The paradox of choice is a fascinating idea. I think freedom is essential for happiness, but you are right that unlimited choices do not automatically mean more happiness. The research suggests that a moderate amount of meaningful choice is most conducive to well-being, enough to feel autonomous and self-determining, but not so many options that you feel overwhelmed and paralyzed. I also think the kind of freedom matters enormously. Freedom to pursue meaningful relationships, creative work, and personal values tends to produce lasting happiness. Freedom to simply consume endlessly, choosing between hundreds of products or entertainment options, tends to produce only temporary satisfaction.
Simple, bounded freedom exercised with intention. I am going to write that down. Now let's do a quick and fun quiz for our listeners. I will give a definition, and Mark will tell us the correct word or phrase. Listeners, try to answer before Mark speaks. First, this is the freedom to say what you think without punishment. What is the correct term in English? Think about it. We talked about this earlier in today's episode. It's one of the most fundamental freedoms in a democratic society, and it's protected by law in many countries around the world. Can you remember the term?
The answer is freedom of speech. The complete phrase is freedom of speech, the right to express your opinions, ideas, and beliefs without fear of punishment. Well done to all our listeners who got it right. Let me give the next quiz question. This is the phrase we use to describe a person who has no commitments or responsibilities and is completely free. Think about it carefully. It's a fun, informal English idiom. We mentioned it earlier in the episode when we talked about freedom expressions and idioms. It has 4 words. The phrase describes someone who is free to go anywhere and do whatever they choose. It sounds a little old-fashioned, but is still used today.
The answer is footloose and fancy-free. A person who is footloose and fancy-free has no ties, no responsibilities, and is completely free to do whatever they wish. A truly free spirit. Now here is my final quiz question for our listeners. This is the name for the type of freedom that Viktor Frankl wrote about, the freedom that exists even in very difficult circumstances, inside a person's own heart and mind. It's a 2-word phrase, and we discussed it in today's episode. Even when people are physically restricted or in a very hard situation, they can still have this type of freedom. Think about your answer.
The answer is inner freedom. Viktor Frankl wrote about inner freedom, the freedom to choose your attitude, your values, and your response to any situation, no matter how difficult. Even when external circumstances are beyond our control, inner freedom remains available to everyone. This idea is profoundly hopeful and empowering. It means that true freedom is never completely taken from a person. Something essential always remains. 3 for 3 on the quiz. I hope our listeners enjoyed testing their knowledge. This topic is so rich and so important. Freedom is not just a political concept, it's something every person experiences, thinks about, and seeks in their own life every single day.
What a rich, deep, and inspiring episode this has been. I feel genuinely moved by everything we discussed today. Let me give a final summary. We talked about the many types of freedom. Freedom of speech, movement, religion, and personal freedom. We discussed freedom and responsibility, financial freedom, and freedom in relationships. We explored creative freedom, the feeling of freedom in nature, and the philosophical question of absolute freedom. We talked about education as a path to freedom, technology and freedom, and great historical freedom fighters. We shared beautiful idioms and expressions about freedom, and we explored inner freedom, perhaps the most profound kind of all. Freedom is one of the most beautiful and important human values.
Thank you so much, Anna. This was one of the most meaningful and thought-provoking episodes we have ever made together. And a huge thank you to every single listener who spent this special time with us. Freedom is not something to take for granted. It is precious, complex, and worth thinking about deeply. Whether your freedom is political, personal, financial, creative, or inner, it matters. Use today's English vocabulary and phrases in your real conversations. Talk about what freedom means to you. Ask a friend what makes them feel free. Discuss the freedoms you value most. Language and freedom are connected. Every word you learn in English gives you more freedom to understand and engage.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast. My name is Anna, and I am so glad you are here with us today. This podcast is made for beginner English learners, and every episode is simple, warm, and useful. Today, we have a very important and meaningful topic. We are going to talk about how to stay positive during hard times. Life is not always easy. Everyone goes through difficult periods, problems at work, health challenges, financial worries, or personal losses. Knowing how to stay positive during these moments is one of the most valuable skills you can have. I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Mark.
Hello. Thank you, Anna. Hi to all our wonderful listeners. Yes, absolutely. Like everyone, I have been through difficult periods in my life. Times when things felt very heavy, and it was genuinely hard to find the energy or optimism to keep going. But looking back, I can honestly say that those hard times taught me the most, strengthened me the most, and ultimately led me to better places. Today, Anna and I are going to share practical strategies, useful English vocabulary, and honest, heartfelt advice about how to maintain a positive mindset when life is challenging. Whether you are going through something difficult right now or just want to be prepared, this episode is for you.
Let's start with some important vocabulary. Hard times means a difficult period in your life, when things are not going well. You might also hear tough times, a rough patch, or a difficult period. These all mean the same thing. To stay positive means to keep a good attitude and hopeful mindset, even when circumstances are difficult. Resilience is a very important word. It means the ability to recover from difficulties and keep going. A resilient person is someone who faces problems but does not give up. Mindset is the way you think about things, your mental attitude. And coping means managing and dealing with a difficult situation.
Of course, here are natural example sentences. She has been going through a really tough time since she lost her job, but she's handling it with incredible strength. He's one of the most resilient people I know. Nothing seems to keep him down for long. Having a positive mindset does not mean pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing to focus on what you can control. Coping with grief takes time. There is no right or wrong way to do it. It's okay to have bad days. What matters is how you cope with them. After a rough patch, things always get better. She changed her mindset and everything started to feel more.
Those example sentences are so natural and so useful. Now let's talk about why positivity matters during hard times. When life is difficult, it is very easy to fall into negative thinking, focusing only on what is wrong, worrying about the future, and feeling helpless or hopeless. This is completely natural and human. However, research in psychology shows that people who maintain a generally positive outlook during difficult times recover faster, experience less stress, make better decisions, and have stronger immune systems and better physical health. Positivity does not mean ignoring problems or pretending to be happy when you are not. It means choosing to also notice what is good, what is possible, and what you can learn.
Positivity during hard times is important for so many reasons. First, your mindset directly affects your actions. When you feel hopeless, you stop trying. When you maintain even a small sense of hope, you keep looking for solutions. Second, positivity affects the people around you. A positive attitude is contagious and supportive to everyone in your life. Third, hard times are temporary. Every difficult period eventually ends, and maintaining positivity helps you survive until it does. The phrase, "this too shall pass," is one of the most comforting things you can say to yourself during a hard time. It means whatever you are going through right now will not last forever.
This too shall pass, one of the most comforting phrases in the English language. Now let's talk about the first and most important strategy for staying positive during hard times: accepting your feelings. Many people think that staying positive means not feeling sad, angry, afraid, or upset, but this is wrong. Trying to push away or ignore negative emotions actually makes them stronger and more persistent. Real positivity begins with acceptance, honestly acknowledging that you feel sad, angry, scared, or overwhelmed. In English, it's okay to feel this way. I'm allowed to feel sad right now. I'm going through something hard, and that's valid. Accepting how you feel without judgment is the foundation.
Accepting feelings is absolutely the foundation. Psychologists call the unhealthy practice of pushing away emotions emotional suppression, and research shows it causes more stress, not less. When you say, "I shouldn't feel this way," or "I have no reason to be upset," you're fighting your own natural human response to a real situation. This wastes enormous mental energy. Instead, name your emotion. I feel anxious. I feel sad. I feel overwhelmed. Just naming it accurately brings immediate relief. This is called name it to tame it in psychology. Accepting a feeling doesn't mean staying in it forever. It means acknowledging it honestly so you can process it and move forward.
Name it to tame it. What a wonderful and memorable phrase. Now, let's talk about the power of connection, reaching out to other people during hard times. One of the most powerful things you can do when life is difficult is to talk to someone you trust. Sharing your struggles with a good friend, family member, or counselor does not make you weak. It makes you wise and brave. In English, I needed to talk to someone. Talking about it really helped me feel better. She was there for me when I needed her most. I reached out to a friend, and it made a huge difference. Sharing the problem made it feel smaller.
Connection has been absolutely essential during every difficult period of my life. When things feel dark and overwhelming, isolating yourself, pulling away from people, makes everything harder and heavier. Reaching out, even when it feels difficult, is always the right choice. Here are some natural phrases for asking for support. I am going through a hard time and could really use some company. Can we talk? I need to process some things. I just need someone to listen. I am not looking for advice, just support. Would you be free to chat this week? And phrases for offering support. I am here for you no matter what. You do not have to go through this alone.
Human connection is medicine for the soul. Beautifully said. Now, let's talk about gratitude, because practicing gratitude during hard times is one of the most researched and most effective positivity strategies available. It might sound strange. How can you feel grateful when things are going badly? But gratitude during hard times does not mean being glad that bad things are happening. It means intentionally noticing what is still good, still present, and still working in your life, even when something else is very difficult. Research shows that writing down 3 things you are grateful for every day, even very small things, significantly increases happiness and reduces stress over time.
Gratitude practice during hard times is something I return to again and again. When things are difficult, I force myself to notice even the tiniest good things. The warmth of a cup of tea, a kind text from a friend, sunlight through a window, the fact that I am breathing and alive. These small things can feel almost irrelevant next to a big problem, but noticing them reconnects you to the reality that life still contains beauty and goodness even in difficult moments. I write in a gratitude journal every evening, just 3 short lines. On hard days, I allow myself to write very simple things. I am grateful for my warm bed. I am grateful that today I had money for food. I am grateful that I had a friend who listened.
Small gratitude is still powerful gratitude. I love that. Now, let's talk about the importance of routine during hard times, because when life feels out of control, having a simple daily routine creates a sense of structure, stability, and predictability that is genuinely comforting. When everything around you feels uncertain or painful, the small, familiar rituals of daily life become anchors. Making your bed in the morning, having your usual cup of coffee, going for a short walk at the same time each day, preparing a simple meal. These small acts of routine remind you that you still have agency, the power to act and choose, even when the bigger circumstances are out of your hands.
Routine has saved me during hard times. When I went through a particularly difficult period a few years ago, everything felt chaotic and uncertain. The one thing that helped me most was maintaining my daily routine, even a very simple one. Waking up at the same time, making breakfast, going outside for 20 minutes. These small acts felt almost too simple to matter, but they mattered enormously. They told me that I was still here, still capable, still moving. A useful phrase for this is just keep putting one foot in front of the other. It means keep doing the next small thing even when the big picture feels overwhelming. You do not need to solve everything today.
One foot in front of the other and one day at a time, 2 of the most comforting English phrases for hard times. Now let's talk about the importance of physical health and positivity, because how you treat your body during hard times directly affects how you feel mentally and emotionally. When life is difficult, many people either stop eating well, stop sleeping properly, or stop exercising, sometimes doing all three at once. But this is exactly the wrong response. Your body and your mind are deeply connected. When you are physically depleted, your emotional resilience drops significantly. Simple physical self-care acts become especially important during difficult times. Drinking enough water, eating regular, nutritious meals, sleeping as much as possible.
Physical habits were genuinely life-saving during hard times. Here's what I held on to. Sleep first. Even when my mind was racing and anxious, I prioritized lying down, resting, and giving my body recovery time. Poor sleep makes every problem feel 10 times worse. Walking outside, second. Even a 15-minute walk changed my emotional state significantly. Something about movement, fresh air, and natural light is incredibly healing for the anxious or sad mind. Eating something nourishing. Even when appetite is low, eating simple, real food keeps your energy and mood more stable. And reducing alcohol. People often drink more during hard times, but alcohol is a depressant and makes emotional lows much lower.
Looking after yourself is radical during hard times. That is so true. Now let's talk about the power of perspective. Perspective means how you see and interpret a situation. The same event can look very different depending on how you look at it. During hard times, our perspective often narrows. We see only the problem, only the pain, only what is lost. But consciously shifting perspective, choosing to look at the situation from a different angle, can be genuinely transformative. Some useful questions for shifting perspective: will this matter in 5 years? What can I learn from this experience? How have I grown from difficult things in the past? Is there any positive that could...
Perspective is one of the most powerful tools we have, and it genuinely takes practice. A technique I use is called zooming out, stepping back mentally from the immediate difficulty and seeing it in a bigger context. For example, if I lose a job, the immediate feeling is panic and failure. But zoomed out, many people have lost jobs and found better ones. This could open a new door. My worth is not my job. This is one chapter, not the whole story. Another technique is what psychologists call post-traumatic growth, the real phenomenon where people often discover new strengths, deeper relationships, and clearer values as a result of going through hard experiences.
What does not kill you makes you stronger is such a famous English expression. Now let's talk about limiting the news and negative information during hard times. When you are already struggling emotionally, consuming large amounts of negative news, social media, or toxic conversations can make your mental state significantly worse. In English, we have the phrase garbage in, garbage out, meaning that the information you put into your mind affects what comes out. If you fill your mind with fear and negativity, you will feel fearful and negative. During hard times especially, it is important to be mindful of what information you allow into your mental space.
Managing information input is so important during hard times. Here's what I do. First, I check the news once a day, not constantly throughout the day. Constant news creates constant anxiety without adding much extra knowledge. Second, I limit or pause social media during difficult periods. Seeing other people's highlight reels when you are struggling is genuinely harmful to your mental state. Third, I'm selective about what conversations I have and with whom. During hard times, I prioritize conversations with supportive, kind, and constructive people, and limit time with those who are negative or draining.
Curating your information environment? What a smart and modern concept. Now let's talk about something very powerful: helping others. It might seem counterintuitive. When you are struggling yourself, why would you help others? But research consistently shows that acts of kindness and helping others during your own hard times is one of the most effective ways to boost your own well-being. When you focus on someone else's needs, even briefly, it shifts your perspective away from your own pain. It reminds you that you still have something to give. It creates a feeling of purpose and connection. In English, helping someone else helped me feel better too. Being useful to someone gave me a reason to get.
Yes, very powerfully. During one of the most challenging periods of my life, I started volunteering at a local charity once a week. My own problems felt overwhelming, but for a few hours each week, I focused entirely on helping others in different but equally real situations. The effect was remarkable. When I left each week, my own problems felt slightly lighter, not because they had changed, but because my perspective had. I was reminded that pain is universal, that kindness matters, and that I was still capable and still useful. There's also a beautiful chemical explanation. Helping others triggers the release of serotonin and oxytocin, brain chemicals associated with happiness and connection.
A small act of kindness is good for the giver as much as the receiver. So beautifully true. Now let's talk about professional help, because sometimes hard times are very serious and the strategies we have discussed on their own are not enough. There is absolutely no shame in seeking professional support during difficult times. Seeing a therapist, counselor, or psychologist is a sign of wisdom and courage, not weakness. Mental health is just as real and important as physical health. If you had a broken leg, you would see a doctor. Emotional pain deserves the same care and attention.
Professional support is something I feel very strongly about. Therapy and counseling have helped millions of people navigate genuinely difficult life experiences: grief, trauma, anxiety, depression, relationship difficulties, and many more. There is still some stigma around mental health support in many cultures, the idea that needing help means you're not strong enough. But I think the opposite is true. Recognizing that you need help and actively seeking it is one of the strongest things a person can do. In English, we now commonly say, "I'm in therapy," the same way we might say, "I go to the gym," without embarrassment or apology. Mental health care is self-care.
I am in therapy the same way I say I go to the gym. I love that normalization. Now let's do a quiz for our listeners. I will describe someone going through a hard time and how they are coping, and Mark will say whether their approach is helpful or unhelpful and why. Ready? Here is the first situation. Lisa has just lost her job. She feels very sad and scared. She calls her best friend and says, "I need to talk. I am going through something hard." Her friend comes over and just listens for an hour. Lisa cries. She feels a little better afterward. Mark, is Lisa coping well with this situation?
Lisa is coping really well. Let me explain what she is doing right. First, she acknowledged her feelings. She did not pretend to be fine or push her emotions away. She allowed herself to feel sad and scared, which is healthy. Second, she reached out for connection. She called a friend instead of isolating herself. This took courage. Third, she was specific about what she needed. She said, "I need to talk," which is clear and honest communication. Fourth, she allowed herself to cry. Emotional release is healthy and physically beneficial. And fifth, she noticed that she felt better afterward. She's paying attention to what helps her cope.
Excellent analysis of Lisa's situation. Now let's look at the second quiz scenario. This one is quite different. James has been going through serious financial difficulties for several months now. Instead of talking to anyone about it, he stays at home completely alone every evening, watches negative news for hours, stops exercising sometimes, and drinks more alcohol than usual to cope. He tells himself he just needs to figure it all out on his own. He feels worse every single week. Mark, what exactly is James doing wrong, and what specific changes would you recommend for him to start feeling better?
Poor James. He is making several common but harmful mistakes. First, isolating himself. Going through hard times alone makes everything heavier. He needs connection. Second, consuming negative news for hours. This amplifies anxiety without helping. He should limit news to once a day. Third, stopping exercise and skipping meals. Physically depleting himself is making his emotional state much worse. Fourth, drinking more alcohol. This is a depressant that will deepen his lows significantly. And fifth, the figure-it-out-alone mentality. Pride is stopping him from getting help he genuinely needs. My specific recommendations: call one trusted friend today, go for one walk outside, eat one proper meal, turn off the news.
Perfect advice for James. Small steps in the right direction make a huge difference over time. Now, I want to share some beautiful and comforting English phrases that you can say to yourself or to someone else during hard times. These are phrases that bring comfort, hope, and perspective. You are stronger than you think. This will not last forever. You have survived hard things before. One day at a time. It is okay to not be okay. You are not alone in this. Better days are coming. You are doing the best you can. This is a chapter, not your whole story. And one of my personal favorites, after the storm comes the rainbow. Mark, what are your favorites?
I love this collection. Here are some more of my favorites. Every day may not be good, but there is something good in every day, reminding us to look for small lights even in dark times. Tough times never last, but tough people do. Very empowering and motivating. Fall 7 times, stand up 8. The Japanese proverb, meaning resilience is about getting up one more time than you fall. The darkest hour is just before dawn. When things seem at their worst, improvement may be very close. You cannot pour from an empty cup, reminding us to take care of ourselves. Everything will be all right in the end.
If it is not okay, it is not the end. I think that might be the most comforting sentence in the English language. Now, let's talk about something that many people overlook during hard times. Rest. Real rest. When life is difficult, many people feel guilty about resting. They feel they should be doing something, fixing something, or working harder to solve the problem. But rest is not laziness during hard times. Rest is medicine. Rest is recovery. When you are carrying emotional or physical weight, your body and mind need extra recovery time, not less. In English, I need to rest and recover. Give yourself permission to rest. Rest is productive. You cannot pour from an empty cup.
Giving myself permission to rest during hard times is something I have had to actively learn. It did not come naturally. My mind used to say, resting is wasting time when things are hard. You should be solving the problem. But I've learned that rest is essential, not optional, during difficult periods. Here's how I give myself genuine permission. First, I remind myself that a rested mind thinks more clearly and solves problems better than an exhausted one. Second, I reframe rest as an active choice, not a passive failure. I'm choosing to rest so I can face tomorrow better. Feels very different from I'm giving up for today. And third, I make rest intentional.
Rest with intention is genuinely restorative. I love how you reframe it as an active, positive choice. Now let's talk about creativity and expression as tools for staying positive. Many people find that engaging in creative activities during hard times is incredibly helpful, not to produce perfect work, but to express what is inside and process difficult emotions. Writing in a journal, drawing or painting, playing music, dancing, cooking a new recipe, gardening. These activities get you out of your head and into your hands. They create something, even when life feels like it is taking things away.
Creativity has been a significant source of healing for me during difficult periods. Writing, especially, keeping a journal during hard times, allows me to externalize the thoughts that would otherwise circle endlessly in my mind. Getting thoughts onto paper makes them more manageable and more clearly visible. I can see patterns, question them, and release them more easily when they are written down rather than trapped in my head. I also play the guitar sometimes, not professionally, just for myself. Playing music is one of the few activities that fully absorbs my attention and gives my worried mind a complete rest.
Lose yourself in something. Such a perfect expression for creative immersion. Now let's talk about hope, because hope is perhaps the most essential ingredient for staying positive during hard times. Hope is the belief that things can and will get better, that the current situation is not permanent, and that good things are still possible in the future. In English, hope-related phrases include, I have not given up hope. There is still reason to hope. I believe things will get better. Hold on, better days are coming. Never lose hope. Hope does not mean being naive or ignoring reality. It means maintaining a genuine belief in the possibility of positive change.
Holding on to hope during dark times is something I do very deliberately. Several things help me. First, evidence from the past. I remind myself of previous hard times I survived and eventually moved through. If I did it before, I can do it again. Second, small improvements. Even on the darkest days, there are usually tiny signs of progress or small good moments. I look for these actively. Third, other people's stories. Reading or hearing about people who survived very difficult situations and found joy and meaning again is genuinely inspiring. Fourth, the simple passage of time. Every day that passes is a day further from the beginning of the difficulty and closer to its end.
Hope is the light in the darkness. What a beautiful and true image. Now let's give our listeners a final practical toolkit for staying positive during hard times. A simple list of strategies they can use immediately. Strategy 1, accept your feelings without judgment. Strategy 2, reach out to someone you trust. Do not isolate. Strategy 3, practice daily gratitude, even just 3 small things. Strategy 4, maintain a simple daily routine. Strategy 5, take care of your physical body. Sleep, water, movement, food. Strategy 6, shift your perspective. Ask, what can I learn? Strategy 7, limit negative information and curate your mental environment.
Continuing the toolkit. Strategy 10, use creativity and expression. Write, draw, play, create. Strategy 11, hold on to hope, even the smallest kind. Strategy 12, seek professional support if needed. There is no shame in this. Strategy 13, remind yourself that this is temporary. This too shall pass. Strategy 14, find meaning. Ask yourself what this experience might be teaching you or building in you. Strategy 15, be gentle with yourself. Do not add self-criticism to an already heavy load. And strategy 16, celebrate small victories. Getting through a hard day is a real achievement worth acknowledging.
What a comprehensive and compassionate toolkit. I feel genuinely comforted just reading through that list. Let me now give a final summary of today's episode. We talked about what positivity during hard times really means, not pretending to be happy, but choosing to also notice what is good and possible. We discussed accepting feelings, the power of connection, gratitude practice, and the importance of routine. We talked about physical health, perspective, managing information, and helping others. We explored professional support, rest, creativity, hope, and comforting English phrases. We did a quiz about Lisa and James, and we built a complete 16-step toolkit for staying positive during hard times. Thank you so much to every listener who joined us today.
Thank you so much, Anna. This was one of the most meaningful episodes we have ever created. And a very big thank you to every single listener who was here with us today. If you are going through a hard time right now, I want to say directly to you, I am proud of you for still showing up, still learning, still trying. That takes real courage. Hard times are part of every human life. They do not make you broken, they make you human, and they will pass. Use the strategies we shared today. Reach out to someone. Be kind to yourself. Hold on to hope.